Welcome to the studio. You're listening to Willow Waves, a student-produced podcast where kindergarten through 6th graders explore interests, promote solutions to global concerns, and communicate about everything related to our social and emotional learning.
We aim to amplify voices, share knowledge, and encourage conversations. Visit us at willowspringses.fcps.edu to learn more and subscribe.
Join us as we explore our diverse and dynamic world of elementary education.
In 2009, a few principals came together to change the schools forever, because at that time there was no recycling bins,
or anyone who knew much about recycling in schools.
So the principals came together to teach people about recycling and created a stewardship program.
Christine Brownson is a member of Get to Green, who we will interview in this episode of Willow Waves podcast.
She has made many differences in schools and helped people understand what eco-schools and outdoor learning are all about,
while also working for one of the biggest programs, FCPS. So come join us in the interview.
Thank you so much for coming.
I'm excited to talk with you about Get to Green.
My name's Emma.
My name's Arina.
And I'm Claire.
It's nice to meet you. My name is Christine Brownson.
Well, it's very nice to meet you. We have a few questions for you, if you'd be willing to answer them.
Absolutely. I have the ones that you sent me. They are tough, deep questions. Good job with your fat questions there. Go ahead.
Okay, so our first question is, what are you most proud of for the Get to Green?
So Get to Green did not always exist in Fairfax County Public Schools. And if you think about our school district, there are about 200 schools in our school district that serve about 187,000 students. And what I'm really proud of is, as one of the biggest school districts in America, that we have a program dedicated to helping students and teachers learn more about the advantages of outdoor education, about caring for the environment, and integrating environmental education into your regular classes. So you don't have a separate class where, or maybe just on Earth Day, you learn about environmental education. Instead, throughout the school year, you are doing things like, I bet you recycle in your classroom, or there's at least a recycling bin in there somewhere. Those are things that actually happen through Get to Green. And so I'm really proud of how a very small office. There were only 2 people for many years in that office, and now there's only 4 people for that entire school district, can impact a big change within our schools and help students learn more about becoming environmental stewards themselves, so that as you inherit the earth, you are going to make sure that you take care of it.
I never knew that you and the company put recycling bins in schools. I actually find that really interesting. I thought they were always there.
Yeah, me too.
And you might find that over time, the recycling programs change. For example, just last year, we couldn't recycle number 5 plastics. Like when you look on the bottom and you see those 3 little arrows and there's a number in the middle. It used to be we could only do 1s and 2s, and now we can do 1s, 2s, and 5s. And so part of our job at the Get to Green office is to educate schools and students about it. And what some of our partners, like the recycling company and the water company, find is that their best way to inform adults in Fairfax County about these big changes is to actually teach students. And then you go home and teach your parents, and they learn better that way than us putting up billboards or sending postcards home to every house, that really you are drivers of change in your households.
Anyway, what has been your greatest challenge for Get to Green?
I think the greatest challenge is getting into every school and every classroom. So my goal as a teacher is that every single student, all 187,000 students, have the opportunity to learn outside. And we live in an urban area, and it can be hard to get outside for learning. So everyone gets to go outside for recess. It's the law. But not everyone is going outside during science class to get hands-on with the material, or going outside for read aloud, or to be inspired by nature during writing. And so my goal and my biggest challenge is reaching into every single classroom and helping every single teacher. And there's about 27,000 teachers, and there's only one me. So reaching each of them and helping them understand the power of learning outdoors and what it can mean for each student.
Yeah, I think that could inspire a lot of people.
Well, that's amazing. But how do you incorporate students in your program?
So what's really cool is that so every teacher that you've ever had, whether you know it or not, is a teacher because they love helping students get excited about learning and really igniting that passion for learning new things. And so incorporating students is one of our main goals, because once you get excited about something, it snowballs and everybody gets excited about doing it in the classroom. So you might have heard, I don't know if your school has an Eco Schools team, but at many schools, for example, I recently taught at Providence Elementary. We had a core group, a green team of 5th and 6th grade students, and they led what our school would do. And then every single classroom from kindergarten through 6th grade sent 2 students as eco leaders to meetings every month. And the older kids would decide what we were going to do and kind of teach them. For example, let's say when that new recycling law came in, they taught everyone the law's changing. Let's look at regular classroom trash and see what can be recycled, what can't. Because once we throw a yogurt that's still really like a half-eaten yogurt into our recycling bin, it's now trash, even if everything else in it was recyclable, because it's contaminated too much. So once we learn that, they can then go back into their classrooms and teach their classes in a morning meeting how to recycle. And then the entire school has made this huge impact on recycling within the school. We're sending less things off in trash trucks and we're recycling more and more, which is an advantage to our entire school district, our county, the planet as a whole. So students are the ones doing that action in schools from kindergarten through 12th grade across our entire county. Students are doing small things like recycling campaigns. They're doing really huge things like stream cleanups. They're raising money to plant gardens at their school. They are creating ways to use solar energy. It was a student that really did all of the education and campaigning to get us to have solar powered and electric buses. So students, you might know, do you remember when you were younger, there were straws in the cafeteria for your milk?
Yeah.
And there aren't straws anymore, right? That was because students learned about how straws were wasteful, how they were ending up in our oceans, how it was an unnecessary cost and waste. And they presented that information to the school board, and they changed the laws within the regulations within our school district. So there are now no straws in FCPS cafeterias anymore. So students were the drivers of those changes.
That is really amazing, but how can you help the students better see their relationships as stewards to the planet?
So hopefully you're learning about some of those things in your classes. You are learning about the small ways that you can make impacts and things that you're doing in class. For example, it is a beautiful sunny day and many classrooms have a lot of windows. So if you don't need to turn on the lights that day as often as possible, having lights off day, teaching students and really having them discover their power as environmental stewards. And so that goes back to what I talked about earlier, that a part of my job is writing that into the curriculum so that already in your normal lessons, you're getting these kind of mini lessons on how you can be stewards in the earth. If you remember back to in kindergarten, you learned all about recycling and reusing things and reducing waste. There's a whole lesson in kindergarten about trying to have zero waste lunches. You learn about it again in 3rd grade. You learned about conservation. You learned about natural resources, renewable, non-renewable. So you're learning all of these lessons about how the earth works and about the environment, so that it's called environmental literacy. So even as you're growing up, you are becoming really knowledgeable so you can make the best decisions for our planet that is going to help sustain it for as long as possible. So I think that making sure that students have access to that information and they learn and can give them voice to the things that you think are really important and kind of put the power in your hands. You guys can make just as much of an impact on your classroom and your school and your community as any adult can.
I think that is a really powerful thing, that you can teach people these things.
Thank you. I think it's a pretty amazing job too. I'm lucky.
Can you tell us more about how a school can become an eco school?
Yes. So our program is Get to Green, and that's just a Fairfax County thing. Eco Schools USA, it's actually the Eco Schools program is part of the National Wildlife Federation, which is a global organization that is looking to protect wildlife, animals, right? And to protect animals, we have to protect plants and the habitats where those animals live. And so their goal is to maintain wildlife species and even to bring back some of our species that have been endangered and extirpated. So part of that goal is to have students learn about it and be part of the challenge. And so the Eco Schools USA program asks students and schools to come together. It has to be made up of a committee with students, some teachers, and maybe some parents outside. If maybe your school has a scout troop or something like that would also want to be part of it. After they form the committee, they choose there's 12 different pathways. They choose the 3 that they really want to focus on. Like I talked about that one school that was doing consumption and waste. Another school has great gardens. And so they wanted to do edible school gardens, and they take all of the things they grow and they eat that food in class. Another school plants a lot of Virginia native species so that they can bring in pollinators so we can increase the biodiversity of the plants and animals that are on our school ground. Because when we have different plants that are native to Virginia, then we're going to get in more butterflies, more insects, more birds. Then we're going to get in the things that eat them, right? You've learned about food webs and how they expand. And so by students planting those things, it's going to bring in the species and increase biodiversity. Once they've done those things, so first they look and see, well, what do we already have? What do we want to do? How can we make this better? And then they try it out. It's just like an experiment, an experimental design. And then they measure the growth that they've had. And they take all that information and who's on their committee, and they report it to the National Wildlife Federation. And as soon as they join the program, they're called an eco school, but you can earn different awards for the program. And if you complete 3 paths over 2 years, you can earn something called a green flag. And in our school district, we've earned about 100 green flags. We have the first school to earn a permanent green flag because they earned it so many times in the entire United States. And I think right now about 30 schools are participating in working towards a green flag. So we welcome and would help any school that wanted to become, because there were lots of steps, right? But we would help them work through those steps and show them all the information they would have to go through. And it doesn't cost any money to be part of Eco Schools.
I really want our school to have that too.
Yeah, I agree with you. Considering the eco schools, can you tell us more about how students can become a citizen science?
Yeah, so citizen science is really cool. All that means is that you are doing work on your own. It's not just a class project. It's not just something you're reading about or sending money to. Citizen science is that you are taking information that actually makes a difference to scientists out there, and you're helping. It can be as simple as when you're on a walk in your neighborhood, you are collecting trash. That's been making sure it gets to the right trash and recycling bin. That's being a citizen scientist and being an ecologist at the time. There's also some really cool programs. For example, do you remember learning about different cloud types in 4th grade?
Yeah.
So you can go out and look at the clouds in the sky over your school, and you can report to the National Oceanic Organization and Association what you're seeing, and they'll take that information and it helps their scientists understand weather patterns better. Or there's an app that you can get on any smartphone, iPad, things like that, called Seek or iNaturalist. And I love it because I want to know every living thing that I see when I'm out on a walk or hike. I want to know the name of it. And so you could take your phone and take a picture of it and scan it, and it will tell you what it is. But the other cool thing is it then puts a geolocation. So it would say that this person saw a cherry tree, a magnolia tree, a robin in this spot. Then scientists can take that data. It's like they hired all of you to be their lab partners that went out to collect data, and they can see what's going on with the population. In fact, they've been able to find species that they thought were extinct. Because if I'm an ecologist or I'm a biologist, a wildlife biologist, I can only be one place at once, right? But if everybody out there is being a citizen science and collecting data for me, I can use that in my research that helps me better understand what the populations look like. And that helps me then publish results on ways to help those animals and those living things. So citizen science is really just everyday people doing things for the earth.
So what you are saying is that when you take photos, it goes to the scientists.
Yes, if you use this app called iNaturalist. And it's a free app. And it has the advantage of then you learn a lot about the plants and animals around you because it identifies what they are. But the scientists can go back and look at that information and see, for example, if they were looking at a park near your school and trying to figure out what was going on with the wildlife there, or how's the water quality? Well, if I notice that there are no birds in that park, something's going on. There's a problem, right? And so I could go but I could only, even if I sat there all day long, I could only probably do that for one day. But if everyone did it, and you guys are only going to be able to do it after school, but maybe someone that's retired takes a walk in the middle of the day and they could get that information. And if there's 10 of us or 100 of us making those observations, that's going to give us a lot more data that's more reliable. So we can see a really clear picture. Even if I sat there for a whole day and I never saw a bird, I might be like, well, there's no birds in this park. But maybe that day is only one picture of the data. If I have lots of people doing it, then the scientists have a lot more accurate data that they can base their information off of. And that's just one example. There are literally hundreds of things that you can do just in Fairfax County to be citizen scientists. And a lot of our local groups, there's like local environmental groups like the Audubon Society. There are also scout troops, both Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts do a lot with, so Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts do a lot with citizen science. They do cleanups, they do plantings, things like that.
If everybody did take a picture, would it help us advance our knowledge about all this?
Absolutely. And so what's really neat about it is that scientists find that they can expand their research. It's more accurate and they're able to. So how science works is you often get money to research a certain problem. Their money can go further and they can work beyond just reporting on what happens. They can then start getting to the solutions because they're able to do less of the hands-on research themselves because they're using citizen information to do it. So yes, you can be helping scientists all the time with, there's other ones where you're reporting your weather data and they're taking that information to see how accurate their tools are or what's really going on. We have big concerns about climate change, right? And so part of researching climate change is to understand what's happening everywhere. And so the temperature at your house in your school, getting that data can really help me understand the big picture if I'm a climatologist or I'm a meteorologist and I need to make better predictions or I need to show patterns that are happening over time to show that what we're doing to the planet really is changing the overall global temperature, which is causing more severe storms, which are causing our crazy snow that's getting dumped in today in the Northeast of the United States, or the terrible rain they're having in California. There are scientists studying that right now. And the more information they can get from more sources gives a clearer picture. Instead of having a teeny tiny picture, they're getting the whole picture because they're getting lots and lots of people's little tiny pictures.
And what is your hope for the future of Get to Green?
My hope would be to have more and more people involved. Our hope is to expand the program so that there's at least one teacher at every single school that knows a lot of the stuff that I know and can help everyone in the school really learn it and expand the program. Because the more people that understand environmental education and the small things that we can be doing every day to make the world a healthier, more sustainable place, the bigger impact we can have. And so it can very much be like a domino effect. One school does it and the next, and you all graduate from elementary school having a pretty firm understanding on the things that you can be doing to be good global citizens. And then you go to middle school and that expands because you're able to have more independence and more power over your learning. And in the future, you will be adults, you will have households, you will be voting in our leaders and making decisions, and knowing all of this information is going to help you really make our planet a better place.
Yeah, I think that it might really help us, like, when we get older.
Yeah, I agree that when we get older, we will become more independent, and what we're learning actually will help us.
That's our goal as teachers, right? Is that someday you will be the ones teaching other people. Even if you don't become a teacher, everyone is really a teacher if you think about people that have taught you different things. And so arming you with the best information so that you can teach other people is my goal overall.
So is this program going on everywhere in the world or just America?
It is. So there are environmental programs. They have different names. right? And in some countries, they are happening more frequently than in other countries. Who is your partner country?
Romania.
And so they probably definitely have some environmental things going. They could have the Eco Schools program is worldwide. I've traveled once. I was driving around Ireland and I saw the green flag outside of school. And so that's truly an international program, Eco Schools. I can look up and send you an email if it happens in Romania, but everyone around the world does care very much. And you've learned a little bit about those UN sustainability goals, right?
Yep.
And you had to pick one that you were going to concentrate on, and that's how you ended up with me today. And so that was basically representatives from every country around the world getting together and saying, hey, we have this one planet to share. How are we going to make sure that we protect it so that we are all safe and happy? And so while the programs have different names, they're happening in every single country, from the smallest, poorest countries to our biggest, most developed countries. There is a lot of environmental action happening. So they might not learn it in school specifically, but in some of the countries where we might not call it environmental education, they're composting, they're recycling, they are definitely have zero waste. We have a lot of waste in our country. We use a lot of single-use plastics, things that we use once and throw away. Like if you think about the plastic wrappers on our silverware in the cafeteria, right? Think of if everybody used one fork every day, we're just throwing that plastic away constantly. And so that's something in our country, a way that we can grow. Other countries, their students bring in like plates and silverware every day that they take home and wash. It's way more environmentally friendly. And so while that might just be what they do, they don't even think about it as being an environmental sustainability act that they're doing, but there are things like that they're really strong in.
Okay, thank you for joining us on our podcast. Yes, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and if you have any questions, let me know. You have my email. Bye, good luck.